is Busted Pencils, fully leaded education talk. Here are your hosts, Dr. Tim Slekar and Dr. Johnny Lupinacci, educated educators talking education.
Oh, boom! Welcome, Busted Pencils, fully leaded education talk, educated educators talking education. Wednesday night, educators amplified are in the house. Teacher Joanna, Teacher Hallie, ready to rock it. Johnny Lupinacci. We are all here. We're gonna, have some fun tonight, like we do on Wednesday. And the challenge out there from last Wednesday, the phones were literally off the hook. Let's see if you all can do it again tonight with bringing it in. Teacher Hallie, Teacher Joanna, Educators Amplified. Definitely the numbers 844-967-2789, 844-967-2789. You're listening. Hey, Johnny, always got to remind people though too, civic media. If you're, you're the app, they got to get the app. They can get it from Google. They can get it from, the App Store. And with the Civic Media app, doesn't matter where you are. You can listen to Busted Pencils anywhere. We've been saying, Finland, Iceland.
You have.
I have
a funny story for you, Tim, about that coming up one of these days. Whenever you're ready for a little surprise.
We'll be ready, but download that app and not just Busted Pencils, all of the shows on Civic Media are available for you. Check them out. You're always in touch. The Civic Media app. Johnny Lupinacci. Wow, look at that. Caller right away. And there's Papa Rico in the text right there. Brought my Apple and I found that darn number 2 pencil.
Always Papa
Steve,
Rico.
We got Steven. Okay, we always got to let Steven jump on because we all know where he's going to be headed after he hangs up the phone. Steven from Green Bay. What's happening, our friend?
What's up? My 2 favorite voices on the radio. I missed you on Monday when I called. I heard that pre-recorded content stuff, and I was like, what is going on? But I'm glad you guys are on tonight.
We're back. We're back. Monday had a little bump, but go ahead, Steven.
So I noticed something the other day. I was sitting in the park, and there was a teacher that brought her class of special needs students to the park because it was such a nice day yesterday. And it was a group of around 7 or 8 people, but there was only one teacher and there was no aides with all these special needs kids. And you could tell she was really struggling, directing all these kids at what they're supposed to do. And I just felt absolutely horrible for this teacher. I almost wanted to hop out of my car and help her, but I knew I couldn't do that. But I just got to thinking, I'm like, is this how it is with class sizes, especially with special needs students in schools? Because if it is, that's absolutely unacceptable.
Steven, you called perfect night. It's Educators Amplified night. Teacher Joanna and Teacher Hallie in the house. I say right to them. Is this just normal for special education teachers to not have nearly enough support? Go, you two.
Well,
the short
Hallie,
answer is yes.
Hallie is a special education teacher. And the short answer is yes. And especially there is a big shortage of aides and assistants and qualified people to help. And then there's also budget shortages that make that seem even more difficult. But Stephen, boy, do we appreciate that, our citizens like you who notice. And I bet you there is special ed teachers out there wishing they only had 7 and 8 students. Now, I don't think that's how it should be, but case numbers and class numbers are really high in many areas.
Well, especially with students with intensive special needs, they do actually deserve and need one-on-one aides. And I think in my entire career, I've never seen that, and so, it used to be maybe a 3-to-1 ratio. And now, you saw it's a 7-to-8-to-1 ratio. It's so wrong for children and then obviously teachers.
Joanna, you look like you had a little more to add.
I'm just saying kudos to the teacher too for getting the kids outside. It's even harder to do. That kind of not having enough assistance again can prevent you, or sometimes has to prevent you from being able to even do that kind of stuff with your students. So, and thank you, Stephen, for being supportive and noticing.
Hey, yeah, Stephen, and just that, but get out of the, stop over there and say, hey, how can I help you? I'm sure that teacher wouldn't have minded. I mean, especially if they know that it's Stephen from Green Bay on the Busted Pencils radio show. They're like, oh my God, you're Stephen. You're that guy. Absolutely.
No,
Thanks for the
no.
help.
Hallie and I went, we would take our kids on walks, and sometimes though we would get stopped by neighbors where we're like, okay, we can't talk. We're like with the kids, can't like talk to you right now, but we
Little freeze right there on the
Yeah,
teacher Joanne.
I was actually going to say the opposite, where I actually was going to say I appreciate Steve not stepping in, and I appreciate him more telling, tell your neighbors. Like, if this was a surprise, like, to me, I'm like, oh yeah, duh. But it doesn't even enter my mind that that is news to people. So then I say, well, thank you, Stephen. Go tell your neighbor. Go tell your friend. Yes, that is how it is in schools.
Well, there it is. Stephen, we
what a
appreciate Johnny.
What a wild weather shift. What a wild weather shift you all going through. It was like spring, almost summer for a day. Then there were tornado warnings when Tim and I were on yesterday. We were talking and we hear the radio give the warning out. And then also, wow, just back to cold, huh?
Yeah. My goodness. I left this morning at around 6:30 this morning in a tornado warning.
Come on.
To head out. I did. It was 67 degrees. I had no jacket. 3 hours later, and I came out of my meeting. Holy crap. I was like, why did I not wear a jacket? Yeah, crazy. The weather is crazy. It's Busted Pencils. It's fully leaded education talk. The number's 844-967-2789. It is Wednesday night. Educators Amplified are in the house. Teacher Hallie, Teacher Joanna. And hey, this week it is Public Schools Week in Wisconsin. Stephen opens it up right there. What does it truly mean to support public education and teaching? That's one of the questions we're putting out there. Public Schools Week. Okay, Teacher Hallie, what does Public Schools Week mean to Teacher Hallie?
It's kind of hard because I will fully say that I feel like I'm a bit jaded of I am sick of these celebratory weeks that really mean nothing. I mean, maybe I just sound like a bitter Betty today, but I don't mean to, but it's a lot of lip service. It's a lot of, the email comes through from the administrator like, oh, we want to honor teachers on Public School Week, but don't forget to, work till your full contract hours and only pay to wear jeans on Fridays, So I appreciate that. I do believe that we have some, organizations in Wisconsin that work to have it be more of an advocacy, a state level, like WPEN, for example. But I think in most schools, it tends to end up just being like, and we got cookies for the teacher. Yay, we're celebrating you.
Question then is, what's the difference then between Teacher Appreciation Day and week and Public Schools Week? Because I think some people are going like, I remember Tim and Johnny talking about, hey, it's Teacher Appreciation. And we said that. We brought up that topic very much going like, isn't it time that we stop just having, quote, Appreciation Day? When are we going to actually do something that shows appreciation? But Public Schools Week, Papa Rico, don't forget about more cookies. Yeah, you got to buy more cookies and pizza, Papa
That's
Rico.
right.
We love that's what's always there. But Joanna, what does Public Schools Week mean to Teacher Joanna?
Well, okay, you are right. There is a difference between there's like National Education Week, that's in November. There's Teacher Appreciation, which I think is in May. And I think now we have Public Schools Week, which is at the end of February. Public Schools Week is specifically about celebrating public education because there is also, I think, a Charter Schools Week somewhere in the winter.
Ooh.
And so Public Schools Week is specifically for, to acknowledge and celebrate the reach of our public schools. What it means to me personally is I actually really never know, for all of those weeks, I never really know that it's happening until right, like you see an email or someone shares a screenshot of a Facebook post. So I think that they are attempts to draw attention. Um, but yeah, I don't have a big story to tell because of course I support people supporting education and public education, but it could be time to maybe look beyond, like we said, like labeling a week or kind of like these small gestures. And maybe we could look at what it would really look like to support public education.
Okay, what if, there it is, Johnny, right there. What if we really meant this is public schools week? What should we be doing during public schools week? Let's put it out there to the listener right there. 844-967-2789. This is public schools week. What should we be doing to celebrate, to lift up, to talk about, to emphasize the importance of public schools as we're in this week? We do appreciate Wisconsin Public Education Network for putting this forward, putting it out there. But I think so many times we have these, as you say, they're kind of like special weeks. They're fun, and what do they really mean? And Hallie, I love, other than I get to spend $5 to $20 to see if I can wear jeans on Fridays and things like that. Or as Papa Rico says, you got to do some kind of bake sale, some kind of sandwich sale. They become kind of, in a sense, really just one more normal day where somebody gets to put on a bumper and sticker and says, I support public schools, right? I support public schools. Okay, great. Do you really? If that's you out there and you're like, what? I love public schools week. Tell us about it. What are you supposed to be doing? We want to know, because that's what we do on Busted Pencils. It's public schools day every day on
Every
Busted
day.
Pencils. Every day. Monday,
Right.
Tuesday, Wednesday,
All day,
Thursday,
every day.
Friday. There we go. It's Busted Pencils. It's fully leaded education talk. It's educators amplified in the house. Wednesday, the number is 844-967-2789. 844-967-2789. What should we be doing for Public Schools Week? When we get back, we're going to be taking your calls. Busted Pencils, back in a minute.
For more.
There we go.
When I think her name was Heather Bourdain, she was on. There's an event on March 1st, the 10th anniversary of WPEN, and there's action, like a rally in Madison, and it's 10th anniversary celebration.
Yes. Hallie, Patrick was just texting me about where's the banner for that.
Okay, and we got LA Tom on the line when we get back.
Oh man, we haven't heard from Tom in a minute. I'm excited about Tom. That's good. Here's the
LA Tom is here.
I thought we heard from him last week.
No, Johnny's saying
we
us.
mean like yesterday he didn't call.
Remember, we're on daily now, remember.
we mean like it's been 24 hours since we heard from Tom.
Yeah.
Our guy, man.
20 seconds.
Okay, but great. Talk about the events. Let's plug the events, but then also let's think about the whole just.
Yeah, I'll try to get back on the outline too that Hallie put together.
Well, it's not a huge deal. Again, I think.
The memo says we gotta work to make the facts with the false charges. Pull the wool over the eyes of the filthy masses.
Don't you be pulling that wool over my eyes. Busted Pencils, fully leaded education talk. Educated educators talking education. On Wednesdays, educators amplified in the house. I don't know how much more educated educators talking education you can get than that. Although we got LA Tom on the line.
Oh, yeah.
LA Tom, what's happening, our friend?
Hey, guys. First off, we the people ultimately are the government and not the corporations, and we must never forget that. And we must wake up and get money out of politics. what I want to say is that just like we, the people, are the government, we, the people, are the public education. And the thing is, it can't just be about me, I. It's about we. I don't know about listeners out there, but I would think when you hear, the song "We Are the World," that actually makes you feel good. It makes you feel good when everyone's working on the same team and everybody's working together. And I just think that we need to start making the minority the majority and the majority the minority. And we need to start phrasing it in terms of, what, it feels really good to work with other people and come up with some type of solution that we all come together and, bring for the country, for the world, for the education. Also, I really think it's important during this public education week is that we talk about public education opening the doors for every single type of person out there, whether they're handicapped, whether they're, whatever. The public school is a place for every single person to come into and learn. And I think we also need to just stop and once again and tell people the way that schools are funded are by the property taxes. And that is not an equitable situation, because in some areas of Wisconsin, as an example, you have very high, more property taxes because you have, better homes or better properties, better locations. So you're going to have a better public education.
There, LA Tom, we know what we appreciate it. Johnny Lupinacci, you're down there. We've got a little surprise you put there in the chat for everybody. But Johnny, LA Tom, right there with this public education week, every day. But the whole idea of emphasizing the public and what public means, serving all. I think we forget
kind of the undertone of all of our conversations. Like you said, Tim, it's public education week every week here on this hour when we're talking, because without public schools, right, we really don't have a democracy. We've said it before, it is the bedrock, it is the foundation. I mean, it is the ground soil of democracy. It is where we learn to be together and to be our best together. And like democracy, it's an ongoing experiment that is part of government responsibility. And Tom reminds us of that. Whose democracy is it? It's our democracy. It's all of our democracies. And so whose schools are they? They're all of our schools. So when we point fingers like that school district over there or that school, I mean, those are all our schools. That's the beauty of public education. So it's always public education week. And it's important to note within that we've moved away from understanding that as a basic right and need. I mean, it's an investment on the future that ought to be non-negotiable. Like, we can talk about how to do it, but not whether or not it should be funded, right? Because that's one way of just saying, like, if we don't fund it properly, it's setting it up to fail. And that's like taking a pee in your topsoil of the food you're, you just don't do that. We just don't do that.
Teacher Allie's like, wow, I don't think I'm going to eat I'm not going to eat tomatoes out of my backyard this summer, knowing Johnny Lupinacci was around.
I said that's a bad metaphor, because that's actually probably not true. There's probably all kinds of human manure stuff we could get into. We talked about school gardens and food yesterday, and we don't need to make it that complicated. Although we are getting Dr. Ethan, our science guy, in soon, so maybe we can loop him back around onto some food stuff later. But back to like public education, right? LA Tom brought up that the danger of when it becomes a marketplace, or it becomes a corporate interest battle, and not a public discussion of public good. And the good news of that is public education is very much public democracy. I mean, it very much is the embodiment of democracy. And so even though we're here saying, man, it needs more, that's the clarion call of a good democracy. Like, hey, we need more participation, because it's there. There's lots of ways to get involved. There's all kinds of things to do to support public schools all the time. And this week is like a reminder. And, it's like when we talked about, it's Black History Month. It's the last days of Black History Month. That doesn't mean we'd stop caring about Black history, right?
Mhm.
Or that we only cared about it for this month. But it's important because it reminds us that without something like this, there are people who might not pay attention to it at all. So it sort of nudges us, right? I'm glad that it's like a birthday. I'm glad that we get a year, older each year, a year wiser, and we celebrate it. But also remember, celebrate all those people close to you all the time, right? Because you value them all the time. Extra on their birthday, but all the time. And so Public Schools Week, we're just giving extra shouts out and love to public schools all week long, but also always.
It makes me think, though, too, when we're saying so much related to democracy, and Teacher Hallie, Teacher Joanna here, the health then of our democracy, if we can look at then the health of our public schools and the people that occupy those, I'd say right now, from what I understand about the need for teachers, the teacher shortage, or as I've called it for years, the teacher exodus, something's going on in our public schools right now that would indicate that the health of democracy, the health of our public schools is a bit of something in turmoil, because the teachers, Teacher Hallie, what do you say about the state of teachers in our public schools?
Ooh, they are in bad shape. Is how I would say it.
Okay.
Just just because of I'm kind of sitting here and reflecting, and what the parallel I get, peeing in someone's garden is a good analogy, but also, this just reminds me of the lip service we would give nurses during COVID by calling them heroes, like that whole rhetoric. That's what this reminds me of a bit as an educator, of like, when teachers aren't treated like professionals, when teachers really are just kind of like told what to do, it's very compliance filled. It's demoralizing. And so while I understand the appreciation is good, I'm also like, but the day-to-day is so bad that it's even hard to even receive the appreciation, or even like, I guess, take it serious. Because I'm like, right, the appreciation is a Facebook post, or the appreciation is a lunch. It's not like my working conditions actively getting better or being treated like a professional.
It's not enough.
It's not enough. Again, Johnny Lupinacci in the chat room there. If schools are the life force of democracy, and like water is to life, what's the poison in the well? Oh, hey, wait, I hear. What do I hear? What do I hear there in the background? I hear that.
Somewhere will soon change.
LA Tom, you asked for it. We are the world. Busted Pencils. Fully blended education talk. 844-967-2789. When we get back, more about the teachers. But right now, we are the world.
We are the world.
I did my best there, Tim. Sorry.
No, that was perfect, Tanya. Thanks. That was a flashback to childhood. I remember we watched that in school even.
You're going to get to hear the 2010 one when we come back from the break, because I'm going to make you listen to it.
Yeah,
Johnny, were you doing the Stevie Wonder?
I don't know what I was doing. I just remember. I think we're all swinging and moving in that video. Remember? It wasn't.
I totally remember. It was. Yeah, it was on. But I just remember Stevie Wonder. I remember Eddie Murphy doing the Stevie Wonder impersonation
last week.
Eddie Murphy on Saturday Night Live.
Law with some line item vetoes to allow more flexibility. In addition to
speaking of peeing on people's gardens, if you got to go now.
Mental health care.
No,
a bridge from southwest Wisconsin to Iowa could be closed for 2 months. Transportation officials shut down the Blackhawk Bridge over the Mississippi River Sunday after the span was found to be moving.
Be right back.
The bridge is almost 100 years old, and a replacement is being built nearby.
I don't think you guys are going to be able to guess who this first voice is in the newer We Are the World. I don't think you're going to recognize it. I'm a little floored right now. Don't Google it, Johnny. I see you. Don't Google it.
I'm not, but challenge accepted.
I was going to say, Johnny Lupinacci's challenge.
Information about the missing boy from Manitowoc County. Elijah View has been missing since last Tuesday, and his mother and boyfriend are facing child neglect charges. They've provided no information about where he is. There's also little new information in the search for 16-year-old Isaiah Kramer. He's been missing from Waukesha County for more than 3 weeks. Foster families for pets are being sought in Waukesha. Warmer weather means more strays, and along with a transport of dogs coming from the south, Waukesha's Humane Animal Welfare Society is looking for help. Haws will assist you in the fostering process, and there is a pathway to adoption. There's more info about how to help on the Waukesha Haws website. AAA has gas in Milwaukee and Waukesha up 40 cents over the past month. Today's average is at $3.12. And that's what you need to know. I'm Stuart J. Waddles, WAUK News.
This message is for Shauna, my mom who just finished her high school diploma. I wanted to say I'm so proud of you for finishing school. You taught me it's never too late to achieve your dreams. I hope to make you as proud as you have made me.
When you graduate, they graduate. Finish your high school diploma for you and for them. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
I'm Pete with the 60-second Showbiz Beat. In an appearance on Joe Rogan's podcast, trust fund kid Robert James Ritchie, also known as Kid Rock, cleared the air about his feud with Bud Light after the company used Dylan Mulvaney, a trans influencer, in a Bud Light ad. Rogan asked the tough question, what's it like being the dude that took out Bud Light? Robert James says he was just having fun when he fired a gun at several cases of Bud Light, none of which were armed and therefore not fighting back. Gutsy. It kind of bothers me that I like the song Picture. If you can't get enough Taylor and Travis, be sure to check out TMZ's special, Taylor and Travis, The Ultimate Love Story. The New York Post reports that Dr. Phil weighs in on the famous couple's relationship, surmising that if they don't take time out from their busy schedules to spend time together, it could harm their relationship. So basically, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's relationship has the same issues every couple raising 3 kids and working multiple jobs has. Brilliant insights, Doctor. For more showbiz fun, tune into Nightlight with me, Pete Schwaba, every night between 7 and 9 p.m. on the Civic Media
1 minute
Radio
out.
Network.
All right, we're ready to go.
Oh, I love that's on. That was a great little bit there.
Pete's great. His little showbiz bits are some of the funniest stuff I hear all day.
Oh my god,
The show's right after yours. It's very good,
so
and not just because
cool.
he has me on as a guest sometimes.
Sunny,
I promise.
breezy, and even warmer Friday, high low 50s. The warmth continues to build for the weekend, partly cloudy and near 60 Saturday, low 60 Sunday. Right now it's 22.
30 seconds out.
Special guest is the curator and founder of Wisconsin's Black Historical Society, none other than Claiborne Benson.
I want people to know that Wisconsin has a beautiful, rich African-American history. Many people think the King's celebration and all of those other kinds of things are more important. They occurred in Wisconsin as well, and we've impacted the entire nation.
The Earl Ingram Show, weekday mornings 8 to 10 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app. Waukesha, home of Les Paul, our awesome farmers market, and The Shaw, 540 AM and 101.
There comes a time when we hit a certain call, when the world must come together as one.
I think that is Biebs.
Whoa, the
I
world.
think it is.
That's what I think. I think it's Biebs.
Ding, ding, ding. That is correct. That is one Justin Bieber opening his
Justin
Bieber.
Bieber. We are the world. Well,
No.
no, we are Busted Pencils. We are Educators Amplified. And it numbers 844-967-2789. Having a little fun there with We Are the World. It was the 80s version and then the 2010 version. But there we are. We are the world. Public schools. I mean, that's the thing. The foundation of democracy. It's Public Schools Week, Wisconsin, the celebration, the admiration, whatever you want to do. And I left this, though, kind of going, however, if public schools are the foundation of our democracy, then our democracy's in trouble right now, particularly when we look at schools and the people who, I don't want to say anyone's any more important than any other one person, but the teachers are not in good shape. Hallie, Joanna, you were talking about this. Joanna, tell teachers, what's going on?
Well, I have been saying my number one issue for several years has honestly been the health of teachers and the health of the educators who are working in schools. They are doing a great job of making it seem like they're okay, but there are very few people who are really okay. And what I mean by that is, having real energy, literally, remaining physically healthy because of the amount of stress that they're under and that the way that our work is designed. So, I mean, again, I sound like bummer on Public Education Week because
it's good.
on one hand, the reality is that, and it is to a level that it is really hard for people to understand. Like you and people who leave feel this weight lifted, or they can feel the difference, like I said, in their body and in their mind. So yeah, it's, we like to do a lot of external things, like I say, in education, like, right, we have a celebration planned, or we are going to buy this thing. But what we really need to do is pay attention to the internals and the human elements of what is happening in our profession. So when that's another show we'll talk about another time, of like when we hear about the solutions, they're very based. And the problem is deeply internal. And so, yeah, unfortunately, if you know a teacher, they're probably not in a great spot, or feeling as good as they should.
No. Hey, Jack from Merrimack is on the line. Just look at that. Hey, Jack, what's happening, our friend?
Well, given this is the week that it is, I would simply say that everyone who is in a school district that has a referendum, and there are dozens throughout Wisconsin, many of them will need the money just to reopen in the fall, vote in favor of passing that referendum.
Yes.
And that will give you this great deal. Your students will actually get a boost of maybe 1/10 of the amount of money that our legislators in Wisconsin gave away as welfare to private schools, which by the way didn't come from people wanting to tax themselves. That came from already paid taxes and the surplus that we have in the state. This is an outrageous situation that should never have been allowed to happen, and unfortunately, it has. So,
well, there it is. If we really want to support Public Education Week or Public Education Day every day the way we should, right now, the biggest thing you as a citizen who's going to take civic action by listening to Busted Pencils on civic media, vote in favor of those referendums. Teacher Hallie, I made you smile on that.
Yeah, you did.
But I want to say the state of teachers. Here's an issue. Statistics, right? So teachers, we used to say, after 5 years, how many new teachers are still teaching after 5 years? And one of the statistic maybe 10 years ago was, a little. Actually, this is pretty sad, but maybe 40% of new teachers are done within the first 5 years. 40%. Okay. Now, this is now 10 years later. It's now like within the first 3 years, there's a 50% casualty rate. 50% casualty rate after 3 years of being a teacher. And so, talking about Public Schools Week, I'm really worried about Public Schools Week, day, anything, when teachers aren't able to stay in the profession longer than 3 years. And that is not a comment on saying that the teachers themselves have something wrong that they can't stay there. What is it that's driving them out, Hallie?
Well, it's interesting because while you were talking, I was thinking about right, if I was your neighbor, how could I support? Like really, what could I do? And then from my lens as teacher Hallie, I'm like, I feel like there is this like mismatch of like people just don't know how bad it is in school. So then I'll feel like I need to tell people about that. But then your neighbor will be like, why are you always complaining? The teachers are always complaining. Like there's this weird catch-22 that we're in. And I guess something just super small would be realizing that like teachers really have like zero say in their day, in their schedule, in how things go. And yet I feel societally we hear like, oh, teachers have another day off, or oh, teachers, what do teachers even do? And kind of trying to help people get to the point of like, questioning more from a space of like, how does this system operate? Like we need these things in our society. We need public schools. So how as a society can we support this system better? That's what I was thinking about while you were talking.
Teach, teacher Hallie, teach.
Teach right there. And then we got a text from Jim from Appleton pointing out transportation service peoples, school bus drivers, all of these people, canaries in the coal mine, because there is a shortage, right? There is not just a shortage of teachers. There's a shortage of all of the people that support our public schools, which in a week of public schools, some form of celebrating or holding them up, to realize, and I know, Hallie, that we potentially worry about coming across as too negative and not putting forth the solution. But the reality is here, if we're going to have public schools week, we need to point out that if they are that important to democracy, which they are, right? Then the idea that there are shortages of any one person to serve the needs of our children, the children, then we've got some things to do here besides declaring things like Public Schools Week. What are we doing to support public schools? What are you doing out there to support public schools, listeners? 844-967-2789. Johnny Lupinacci, I don't know. I'm just, I'm getting a little frustrated.
I get frustrated, but I get excited too. One, I'm just distracted and excited by Jack from Merrimack, Jim from Appleton. We got some nice rhyme and flow to our callers tonight. Love that. I do. I love it. So slightly distracted, the ADD kicks in. But I love that, one of the things that we're coming back to is when we do have something celebratory like public education month or week, right? We were talking about Black History Month, Public Education Week, and that a big piece of those efforts are not just only political by nature of the content, but they're about advocacy and they're about action. And so I don't even see it as negative. We keep saying like, well, we're being negative. I think it's really positive. It's really good that we're talking about these things, especially, I had to leave teaching because of health issues. Right. And it's been a constant battle of like how to be and model good teaching that your body can actually sustain. Because what I knew as good teaching, flashback to like new math teacher, Escalante is inspired, right? Book was, what is the other books like? Teach Like Your Hair is on Fire. All these different efforts that I emulated and I understood and embodied as good teaching. And it was effective, except I don't know.
It's not sustainable.
No, it just was destructive to my body. It was, and I actually didn't light anything on fire, but the insides of my body, like my like our human systems can't sustain. And I love that teacher Joanna brought that up. Our health as teachers. And I like that, Jim from Appleton brought in that aspect. That's not just teachers. We're talking a lot about teachers because that's our primary entry point, but it's people working in schools. And that reminds me also, Educators Amplified so often reminds us it's everybody in the schools. When we talk about regulation and the right to being in a place that's healthy, it's not just students and teachers, it's students, teachers, bus drivers, office support, all of the cafeteria folks. We talked about food yesterday, all of that. Don't even tell me, Tim. Is this Papa Rico on the line, or is this?
Yeah, it is Papa Rico. He's calling now. He's off the texting and calling. Papa Rico, what's up? What's happening, man?
Hey, how you guys doing? Loving the show. Hey, I love this show. I love this show. You know, I can relate very well. My ex, but we've become friends because we share children and grandchildren together.
Yes, sir. Love
She
that.
started out. Yes, she started out long before she took her education when we were starting out in life. And she took care of a young child with Down syndrome. Very intense, very intense. And then she put herself through school after our divorce at Whitewater College. And then had to spend 5 years in the Beloit school system, not where she wanted to be, because we're mostly closer to the Janesville area. And then now she is finally after, and then this is ironic that you say, oh, these people are burning out by 3 and 5 or whatever. It's like she did 5 years in what I would have called one of the harder school districts in our Rock County area. And survived that just to get into the Janesville school district.
Oh.
And
Teacher Joanna. Go ahead, Papa.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead. I'd love to hear from Joanna.
I saw Teacher Joanna there looking like she had a comment for Papa Rico there. So Joanna, go for it. No, look at that. And we got Joanna. She's on a little bit of a technological glitch right now. So Papa Rico, keep going where you were going with that.
Okay, so okay. Now I'm back on that beeping thing. Messes me up. Hey,
That's okay.
Now I've thrown out some comments on the live feed tonight. You know, and the whole damn school system, me, is ironic. You know, it's like we got to send these kids. They got to sell cookies and pizzas, and you know I've alluded to that. And you know what? I actually enjoy a damn. Hey, guys, I'm gonna be honest with you. I actually enjoy an occasional chocolate chip cookie. Papa's not the greatest cook, and it's pretty damned easy, okay? But you know what? I'm thinking to myself, why? And I've texted, and you've seen my text tonight on the live stream. Why wouldn't we go back to the old school days and bring Teach an apple or a kiwi or a banana, something healthy?
You must have been listening to the show last night too, Papa Rico, because Johnny Lupinacci was all over about the fact that if we're going to talk about food, it's got to be healthy food. Man, the stuff is interacting back and forth. The number's 844-967-2789. It's Busted Pencils, Educators Amplified in the house, Teacher Hallie, Teacher Joanna, Public Schools Week. Great callers. When we get back, hey, what are you doing to support public education? Might as well leave it with a little We Are the World, though. See you in a minute.
We're saving our own lives.
Did you guys catch who that was at the end?
No.
I didn't know. No, who was that?
That was Pink.
Oh,
that was
nice.
Pink. Okay, yeah, I
You got some
hear
Pink,
that.
you got some Usher in there, and now they're playing. If we'd played it longer, you would have gotten the ghost of Michael Jackson. I'm not kidding.
Oh man, I gotta.
Michael
He
Jackson
sneaks in there.
shows up in both versions.
Having help my students tomorrow morning because we're going to be listening to both versions of We Are the World in class.
Yeah, do it. Yeah.
Yep.
When I was in school, the 2010 version had a chokehold on me. I would listen to it on the school bus. I don't know why. 30 seconds out.
30 seconds out, and Hallie, we see your comment right there. We'll come right in with that.
Oh, okay.
And then we should do the go around. And I think someone put it up in the thing earlier. What do we want to celebrate or shout out?
Position on abortion is dangerous for Wisconsin women.
Man, the time flies with an Educators Amplifier in the house.
Right.
Yeah.
The Shaw, WAUK, Waukesha's home for Nightlight with Peach Wild.
Yes. Busted Pencils, fully leaded education talk, educated educators talking education. The number's 844-967-2789. Public Schools Week, Educators Amplified, Teacher Joanna, Teacher Hallie in the house. every Wednesday. Teacher Hallie, though, Papa Rico made a comment about the fundraise. You have an issue. Put your issue out there, Teacher Hallie.
Yeah, what keeps popping up in my life for some reason is this concept of like private companies or private entities used to fundraise for public goods. And I guess it's something that, I don't know, it's because it's in my face right now. I'm taking time to reflect on it and how I have issue with it because, right, we're talking about that schools and public schools specifically serve our communities and our democracy. And so why is it required to have all these fundraisers in order for, kids to have necessities in their schools? Like, that is my bigger issue, that I think, we've talked about referendums and we talk about not getting the money we need from state legislation. And yet, why aren't we putting together that, like, right, we have to fundraise because we're not getting the funding we need, and so while I think it's, sure, kids are learning things maybe when they're going out and fundraising, I'm like, the requirement of it, just I have an issue with.
Well, we said when fundraising becomes good. Joanna, go ahead.
And or do the more for less, which then leads back to the health thing of like why people are burning out. So we're fundraising for like what people consider the special fun things, which again should just be things that kids can do, when they're sponsored by their school.
Trips.
And then like these are things that should just, it's part of it. But then also we're asking everybody who's inside to do more for less, and it's literally taking a physical and mental toll.
That's right.
Despite all of that, I do really think about how much there is to celebrate, because I am amazed at what is happening and what does happen. And sometimes it's like being a great teacher. It's like sometimes to your own detriment, like principal walks in, sees it all going great, and they're just like, wow, she's really good. And it makes it look easy. And you and I both know that, Hallie, how complex and intricate and sophisticated it really is to have a beautiful classroom community where everybody's engaged in learning. And so I think that's kind of the, so there's lots of magic happening out here in our schools. And so I wanted to ask you guys, when you think about celebrating public education, can you think of something or a story you would tell, what you are seeing like now that you would call out to shout out or celebrate?
Teacher Johnny, go for it.
Anyone?
Oh, you want me to go first? I think right off the top of my head, it's this week I got to spend a lot of time with new teachers. I teach teachers, and I got to visit a lot of classrooms and work with teachers for a sad reason, but I'm inspired by how they're teaching. But we're working on, as social studies educators, how to teach about what's happening in Gaza, and to teach about genocide, and to teach about history, but also difficult things that are happening right now at developmentally appropriate ways with young learners, because kids are scared, and they really should be. There's a lot of scary stuff happening in the world, important for them to know about. So I'm inspired by teachers out there who are acknowledging that this is happening. They're bearing witness to genocide, and they're teaching about it in really thoughtful ways that I got to see young people moved deeply in a way where I know those kids are going to stand up for human rights as they grow up. Right. And I knew that, like, seeing the lessons that teachers are out there teaching. So I'm inspired by teachers out there who are figuring out how to teach difficult, sometimes controversial things in really age appropriate ways, and that are advocates of children everywhere. So I think that the teachers I get to see all the time, they're these strong advocates of children everywhere. And I'll tell you, it brought me to tears twice this week, and it's inspiring, and I want to celebrate it, because it is certainly the life force of good education are those teachers out there doing that good, like Teacher Joanna said, hard but good work.
So mine, I put this inspiring. There is a superintendent that I work with, and just breaks the norm on typically what we say. The biggest advocate of public education, the biggest advocate of the children in his school district, the biggest advocate of his teachers, seeing that like there's a model of what it means to be a leader who's in support of public education, able to, in the last 3 years, get his valedictorians to commit to coming back as grow your own teachers in his own program. His 3 last valedictorians went to college to become teachers with a commitment to come back to the school district right there, the top of the class. So the ability to inspire, it's there to put that in. This is a small rural school district, and that ability to kind of put out there how crucial it is to be supportive. And then he walks that all the time. He shows that he doesn't just talk. He literally puts out his public support for public education by investing in everything he can. The idea, though, that he has been able to convince 3 of his best students to go out to become teachers in the middle of a teacher exodus crisis. Awesome stuff. That's what I got to say.
And I'll say that, what I really know is that like doing Educators Amplified, working with you all, I'm always concentrated on how can we make public schools even better. And I really connect with teachers and, I'm a big champion for them. But my big shout out or what I'm celebrating is, as much as I know teachers are in bad shape, when I went today to go pick up my daughter from, I walk her to school and home, just like seeing at least 50 K4 through 2nd graders with big smiles on their faces, I'm just celebrating that like, despite all the things that teachers are going through, kids are walking out smiling. And I think that that's a big deal, that kids are still able to enjoy learning despite things that are going on around them.
Mm-hmm. Well, they continue to work all those. Joanna.
And I celebrate all the love that I see. It's in the little hugs among the kids themselves, from teacher to student, from teacher to teacher. There is a lot of love in these buildings, and it is something I celebrate, the love that I have access to in my job as a public educator.
Celebrating the love every Wednesday. It's Educators Amplified in the house. Teacher Hallie, Teacher Joanna. Tomorrow, though, our own astrophysicist Ethan Siegel joins us. Busted Pencils, fully leaded. See y'all tomorrow.
All right, that was a good one.
Nice.